Hey guys, welcome back to Conversations with Allieetoile. I am so excited to have this already be episode 20. Wow, thank you guys so much for participating and engaging. It means the world to me. And without further delay, I have a special guest joining me who truly needs no introduction, but I will introduce her nonetheless, the lovely, talented, and beautiful Juliet Doherty. So I am going to get her connected to you all just a second. Let's see, I think it's connecting. Yes. How's everyone doing? Thumbs up if we're doing okay. Let's see. Connecting. There she is.
Hello.
Hi, Juliet. How are you?
Hi.
Welcome to Conversations
I'm
with
good.
Allieetoile.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being part of this. And especially, I'm excited. This is episode number 20. I'm still like pinching myself.
That's crazy. Are you tired yet?
You know what? I'm not going to lie. This has been a lot of hard work because I'm so used to
I
like
bet.
having a schedule sent to me and just planning my day around work, and now I'm like in
Right.
an administrative position. So it's been a learning
Wow.
experience, but I have learned so much just from these conversations. So it's been very rewarding.
I bet. I've enjoyed watching them so
Well,
far and
thank you, thank you. Well,
love what you're
anyway, I'm
doing.
I'm so excited to have you be on here today, like I know many other people are as well. But before we dive into our conversations and our topics and all that, I want to pass
Yeah.
you this metaphorical microphone a little bit and let you talk a little bit
Thank you.
about yourself, about your career, where you are, what you're doing now, all that good stuff.
Okay, sure. So we met when we were what, 16, 15,
15, 16,
something.
my goodness,
15,
yeah.
16, crazy at Frida Lizan. At that time, I was studying at San Francisco Ballet School. So I'm gonna work in a weird way, but now working further backwards. I started dancing at my family school pretty much from the time of birth. It was my great grandparents' dance school. They started in 1945.
Sure.
Then my mom, being my teacher, noticed that I had some skill in ballet and was like, I heard about this competition, Youth America Grand Prix. Why don't we go try? And she had been taking some older students, and my older sister actually had competed a couple of times in the competition before I did. So when I was 9, I did like a jazz solo and not even a ballet variation. I did like a ballet contemporary solo choreographed by my mom. And I ended up very surprisingly winning 3rd place. So I was able to go to finals that year. And I think that was a huge milestone in my life, looking back and being able to be at the finals and see people from all areas of the world, and girls that at the time, I was 9, so like a 15-year-old girl at that time, just looked like so mature and like
Sure, yeah.
otherworldly. And I just saw these girls and I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. This is who I want to be. So
Yeah.
that's what sparked that initial interest. And then I ended up winning the gold medal when I was 14 at finals. And that allowed me the scholarship to train at San Francisco Ballet School. And I took some time off from competing for a year. And then when I came back to it, I did YAGP again when I was 16, and I did pre. And that was my main thing. I was preparing for Prix de Lausanne, where I met you. I think that
Yay.
was when we first met
I
in person.
believe so, yeah.
Yeah. And then since I had some stuff ready, I thought I might as well just go to YAGP since it was right after. And since then, I spent a short time being a trainee at San Francisco Ballet. And then I had an opportunity to develop a new musical with Susan Stroman, and Tyler Peck played the lead in that. And so wonderful. What a great person. The whole team, the whole creative team. And that just kind of like reignited this spark in me of storytelling with using my voice. And I love musical theater, and I started in musical theater when I was 6 years old. So I don't know, something about that just reminded me how much I really enjoyed that. So when I took a semester off of San Francisco Ballet of that trainee year, did the musical and performed at the Kennedy Center, came back, did a month as a trainee, and was like, I just can't get this out of my head. I can't escape this feeling of wanting to keep exploring that side of myself and my artistry. So I packed my bags and I left San Francisco Ballet and moved to Arizona for a short time, danced with a small company there, made a couple of feature films. One's on Netflix now, and the other one I think is coming to Netflix in May. That's like a little
Exciting.
secret. But I just heard that news and then moved to New York, and here we are.
The rest is history, right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing because the people who I've had on this series so far it's just been the most diverse group of artists, coming from companies and schools and in positions where all the way from, apprentice to principal dancer and artistic directors. So having all these amazing experiences has just been a privilege, and I am so excited to dive into today's oh gosh, thanks. I mean, it's seriously though, like I'm sitting here and it's amazing because so many of the people on here have been I can't talk. Have been an acquaintance.
That's why I have coffee with me. No worries.
Oh, I have one too. It's like right here. It's so big.
Amazing.
But yeah, no, it's been ranging from like people who I've met as an acquaintance somewhere, sometimes just having friends through like Instagram, or people I've known nearly my entire life and career. So it's made me feel like a fangirl all over again. Like I'm loving it, and I'm learning as well. And hopefully everyone watching this is getting a takeaway. I've been getting an amazing response so far, and I'm so excited to keep going with this. So without further delay, I want to jump into some amazing conversation topics. And of course, for everyone watching, I want to encourage you guys all, please send in questions or comments if you have any, and we will do our very best to answer them all. If not, we will revisit them at some point. Okay,
I'm excited. This is what we're talking about.
I know. Well, I mean, obviously, we're in a pretty challenging time in the world right now, and not everyone is... I don't know anyone who is dancing right now at the full capacity, or at least working at the full capacity that we would all like to be. And, of course, it's a physical challenge. We're not able to move the way we want to. And, of course, we have limitations in regards to, I'm with my family, and they have tile throughout. So I can't really go and do a full-on, variation on tile flooring.
You can't just have them replace the floors right now?
Yeah, unfortunately not. I don't think they're going to like that aesthetic. But, aside from
Can you imagine just Marley in every single room?
Oh, gosh. That would be like 12-year-old's Allie, like my dream. But that's okay. Thank God we've grown up. But aside from being limited physically, this is something that has really opened my eyes, and hopefully many others, to the effects that dancers and artists feel mentally, our mental health and our mental well-being. Yeah. And especially now, because this isn't really a time off that we asked for. It's not something like we were injured and have to consciously recover and rest. So I wanted to get your thoughts on, how are you coping with this mentally? Because it's very easy, at least I found it's much easier for dancers to talk about, my ankle's bugging me today, I gotta lay off the jumps, or something physically is not 100%, so we're gonna voice that and take care of it. But the mental side of things, we often tend to really just push it away.
Right. And it's interesting because I agree, we push it away, but we don't even realize that we are, because it's not as easy to recognize or diagnose when something is going on that isn't like, you're not getting that signal, like that pain signal, like, oh, this hurts, I'm going to back off, or I need to voice this, It's something that can show up in weird ways. And like, I've noticed that even like, being here with my family for the past 5 weeks, it's been great, because it's probably the longest time I spent around my parents since I was like 14 when I moved away from home.
Yeah.
But I've like lashed out at them in weird ways that I just have realized I've had to like sit down and think about, and been like, oh, that like obviously that's something that sounds like easy to recognize, but there's something deep down that I am battling with that I don't even realize until I take it out on somebody around me. And I think a lot of us are doing that currently, because we're probably in situations where we're cooped up with the same people, and then we're getting really comfortable and familiar in their family, and then we're, maybe
we get into that little bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I noticed that. I mean, I've cried a few times this week, which I don't normally do. Like, I'm generally just like very kind of like go with the flow, and then I don't even know why I'm crying. I'm like, what's going on? I think it's just that underlying like anxiety, which is so odd, but it's just like that. It's confusing right now. It's unknown, and it's frustrating because like we're trying to all do our best and be involved in the community, and
For
I'm so
sure.
happy that you're doing this and providing this, because it's such a great outlet for people to come and like we can all feel connected without being in the studio. But yeah, it's strange. It's like, how do we navigate something like this that has truly never happened before in history? And at least we're lucky enough to have technology to keep us all connected.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
yeah, it can feel a bit isolating. And I think the hardest part for me, that if I can just like, I don't know, put a finger on it, is just like a piece of my identity I feel like is so wrapped up in being like on stage or in classrooms or in New York, you know, like specific places. I'm like, that's who I am and that's what I do.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
then now all of a sudden I've lost this little piece of sense of self, and it's making me freak out because I'm like, I don't have control over that, you know? So it's just kind of like
Yeah.
recognizing that, trying to understand, and then just making more space for it, I think is the best we can do
It's
right
interesting you
now.
mentioned that, like a little piece of yourself being gone, because I've had so many people write in and so many people comment on, well, I know you as being Allie the ballerina, or
Right.
I know Juliet as being Juliet, this multi-talented actor, dancer, the list goes on. But what are we doing and who are we when we're not on stage, when we're not our
Mm,
identity per se,
right.
because, and I keep trying to stress on here, and with so many people I've discussed this with, of course, while Allie the ballerina is a big part of my life and it's the part that most people know me for, it's
Right.
not all of me. It's not nearly
Totally.
as important as Allie the person, Juliet the person, and
Hmm.
that's who we are every day. And having that
Right.
grounded and personal look at things, it only is going to contribute to when we are Juliet on stage, Allie on stage. So it's been exciting and interesting to tap into the many different, I don't want to say like many different paths, but yeah, many different paths and ways that people go about processing and
Right.
understanding that, which has been really rewarding. And so one of the big things that I wanted to, or I guess umbrella category topic,
Yeah.
something like this,
Yeah.
obviously it's fun to talk about questions like, oh, what's your favorite ballet to dance? Or what's your favorite role you've ever performed? What was a really memorable time in your career? And those are all wonderful, positive things. And it's
Yeah.
amazing how people, face to face, social media, whatever, all we want to do is talk about the good and the exciting and, oh my gosh, this just happened to me, blah, 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 which is, again, it's fantastic and it's great. And I think social media is
Totally.
an amazing way to build that up. But
Yeah.
we don't always talk about the things that are hurting us or bugging us, or maybe not something that we want to click that post button with, because it's not
Right.
something that we even like, that we want to share. You know,
Hmm.
there are times, I'm sure you've experienced this, I've experienced it, and for everyone watching, at some point in your life, whether you're a dancer or not, we're going to experience the amazing highs and the devastating lows. So I
Yeah.
wanted to talk and hear your thoughts a little bit about, why do you think at this day and age, and again with the current coronavirus thing, how has
Right.
social media played a positive role in building image? And also, what are your thoughts on how it can sometimes be a bit misleading or a little bit difficult to talk about things like what we're discussing,
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, there's a few things that come to mind. So, first, I just want to acknowledge what you said about sharing highlights, because I think it's really interesting because we do share those like those peak moments, but a lot of the time and most of the times those peak moments came from something that was really difficult to learn,
I love that.
like a
Yeah.
really tough time that we're not sharing. And I thought those are my favorite accounts to follow, are people that are like showing unedited 30-minute lives or IGTVs that are like, I'm just gonna run for 9 miles and I'm gonna show you all the like gritty parts of it because it applies to everything, just
It
like it,
does.
we can all relate to getting whatever it is, if it's exercise or if it's like trying to sit down and write a book or an essay, like we can all relate to those moments of just like getting over that hump. So and I'm guilty of that. I try to be as unfiltered as I can, but I show a lot of the stuff where I'm like, yeah, I feel good right now. And those are the times that I post too, usually, are when I'm feeling good. And when I'm having like a down day, I normally kind of just escape from my phone, which I think is healthy, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, it's like this weird balance because you want to take a break, you want to listen to yourself, and you want to think, you know what, I don't feel like I'm in the right mindset to put
Yeah.
something out into the digital space. Like, I want to be sharing my best version, my best energy. I don't want to be like some Debbie Downer or
Yeah,
sharing something that isn't
definitely.
as valuable to my community. But then there is some value to that, and being a little bit more unfiltered and say, hey, this is what I'm going through today, and like, let's chat about it while you're trying to figure out what it is. But yeah, I mean, it has played an incredible role in my life. It's crazy to think that I've had Instagram since like just over like in maybe 14 and a half. I think I got my account right
Yeah.
before I moved out to San Francisco. And then I don't know, of course it was a different thing then than it is now, but still it was fun just to kind of at that time I was doing less like personal projects. I was sharing more photo shoots and things like that. But still,
Mm-hmm.
like, it inspired me to create, number one, to meet so many different photographers and so many talented people that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to connect with. And they're really good friends now, which is
Yeah.
so cool that I've been able to maintain those relationships. So, I mean, social media really is the reason why I have a lot of the friends that I do today, and why my community is so vast, and also so like it varies just in so many different ways. I have like writers and set designers and also many dancers, but it's just like, it's very inspiring that I can wake up and I can get in contact with any of these people, and then I have that opportunity to brainstorm at home and think, now in this time that we're in, when we're all sitting at home, I can reach out to these people and say, hey, do you want to, and you do the same, hey, do you
Yeah.
want to get on a live? Do you want to have a conversation? Or do you want to like provide a bit of music or some poetry or something? And then you just keep the
You
ball
roll
rolling.
with it.
You
Yeah.
never know. Yeah, you never know who that might touch, who might see that video or photo or whatever, and might inspire them to create something. And it keeps going. So I think Instagram is, and I'm not sure about every single platform because I'm pretty much most active on Instagram, but I think it does like inspire a lot of positivity and creativity, and I don't really have many complaints about it, to be honest.
And I think one of the unique things about it too is that, at least looking back, it's nice to be able to chronicle your journey. Um,
Yeah.
and again, I know that there's a big debate over, yeah, sometimes what you see on there is superficial, or it's very, it's not both sides of what's in front of the camera and what's behind it. But
Right.
negatives aside, the positive thing that I've been able to take away is, I look back at things a year ago and I'm just absolutely flabbergasted. Look at where I'm at. Look at what's happened. Look at what's
Yeah,
changed in my
totally.
life. And it's amazing to look at yourself and watch yourself grow. And so that's kind of how I want to segue into the next topic on here. And you guys are, I mean, oh my gosh, I've got my screen pulled up here, and I mean, I'm like, it's a blur of questions. Thank you
I
guys.
know, I've seen that too. On
It's
the
crazy.
screen.
It's crazy. But I want to talk about growing, meaning growing up, because
Yeah.
you and I both started our journey at a young age. And it's tough to not only go into a very, and I will say competitive, I use it sparingly, but a competitive art form, a competitive
Yeah.
industry at a very tender age, and not at some point come across obstacles like insecurities, or the
Oh yeah.
need for validation, feeling pressures, not only from ourselves, because I think that we're both very I don't want to say critical people, but we have high expectations and we work hard, and we want good for ourselves. Motivated, there we go.
There you go.
But it's interesting too, because you of course have had an absolutely amazing career on stage, on screen, various different arenas. I want to talk a little bit about the insecurities or pressures that you might have felt at a younger age. And of course, for the dancers, artists, people who are watching this now, how is it normal to go through those? Is it normal to feel those things? And how did you come out on the other side of that? Sometimes it hits us at a younger age. Sometimes it hits us at an older age, student, professional. I mean, it can happen more often than not. It's going to happen to you at different stages throughout your life. So I'm just curious to see your thoughts on that.
Yeah, definitely. So gosh, there's so many ways that I could tackle the subject of those insecurities and growing up. It's so familiar, and it's right there, and it's there all the time. And that's why it's even hard to talk about it now, because it's something that it's a constant thing. And a lot of it, like, you can do as much work as you want, but usually the insecurities that you feel at 12, you're still going to feel like your entire life. Mm-hmm. And I'm still dealing with that too, And so that's totally fine, because it's normal. And we all have those same things that we're dealing with and pressures. And especially when you are like a competitive athlete, or you're putting yourself on a platform where you're like, for us, we're going to competitions and we're like, hey, look at me, for like, give me all your attention for a few minutes at a time. Yeah. And now I'm giving myself the pressure of like, I have to be amazing, and I have to blow you away, and I have to grab your attention for 2 minutes. And it's crazy to think about. And it's something that like I always grappled with competition. And like, just something that comes to mind is like, even after I would compete and I would be like, great, that went great, but like, I'm good, I'm done, I don't want to go back out there. Like, I'd be grateful for my time out there. And then I would get like, for an instance, Larissa, who, directs Youth America Grand Prix. Yeah. She called me one day, after, I believe it was the year, it was when I was 16. So when I came back, and I was competing in the senior age division at YGP finals, and they called me, and I didn't know if I had won an award or anything that year, but they asked me to perform in the gala. And I remember I broke down, and it was like, I'm so grateful for the opportunity, obviously, but it was something that initially overwhelmed me, as in just like pressure of like being in the gala with all the professional dancers that I look up to. And I just broke down. I started crying, and I was like, no, you can't make me do it. Like, I was just like pleading. I was like, don't make me go out there.
Yeah.
And Larissa's like, are you crazy? Do you realize like what is being, and my mom too, they're both like fighting back. Like, do you realize this opportunity? Like, it's not something that is just handed out. And I couldn't get out of that scared part of myself that was just so wrapped up in the pressures and wanting to be, I guess, at the level that I thought everyone else is at, or be that person. Like, I'm looking at the schedule, or the program, and I'm like, Misty's going to be out there, Isabella's going to be out there, all these people that I really look up to, and I know the type of dancers that they are. And so I'm putting myself in this arena where it's like, it's so fine just to take a breath. And this is what I never did in my teen years. I never was like, I'm 15, I'm 16, like, it's fine. I'm still a student. I'm still learning. And we can all do that at any time in our lives, is just take a step back and be like, wow, like, it's really okay where I'm at right now. And everyone else thinks the same. I'm the only one that's like giving myself this pressure. I mean, maybe there's some teachers out there that are like super, but most people, especially teachers, when they, when you're in class and they give you your correction, they're not like expecting you to just change it right away. They're just like saying, hey, I'm acknowledging where you're at right now. I think this could help you do it a little bit better. But like, they're taking an interest, and they're noticing your potential, and they're just trying to contribute, right? So
absolutely. I mean, I love to use the phrase, and I'm stealing this from one of the coaches who I've had in my career. Nobody woke up and started doing a full-length ballet or a full performance.
Right.
Nobody woke up and just was like, one day, I'm going to do this today, and it's going to be effortless, flawless, amazing. I mean, I wish I could wake up and do that. I think that would be fabulous. I wouldn't, if someone gave me that superpower, I would not turn it down. But the reality of what we do is this is something that takes years. This is a career in an art form. And I want to even open this up to just the arts in general. We are never at our best. You know, we're constantly working to be better until the day that we retire, in essence, you know. So I think it's important to... and I want to, maybe this is a little bit nerdy, but I love words. I love definitions. And one of my favorite things that I keep referring back to, and I actually didn't hear it until this year, like 22-year-old Allie learned this and it changed my life. The definition of the word bloom is a beautiful process of becoming.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
And I applied that to my life, my career, and it changed my life. It changed my intentions, you know, thinking about like where I am right now is okay. Like, of course we have pressures. Of course, you know, I'm someone who puts immense pressure on myself because I want to do well and I want to be able to put out the best version of me always, but it's a process, and not every day is going to be as beautiful or as magical as you want it to be. And I think it's important to use the days that aren't, or to use those times where you were using your example, you know, let that be fuel. Don't let that be something that deteriorates your own self-worth. And you know,
I think
absolutely, yeah,
I think
go ahead.
like the right amount of pressure obviously is healthy. And even like, you know, setting goals, neuroscientists have studied that, like, when the human brain focuses on a goal, it's healthier, it's happier, it activates all the right chemicals. But I think, like, if I could just go back and tell myself to ease off the pressure at times and not get so wrapped up in like it has to be a certain way. It never has to be a certain way, and it's never going to be the way that you imagine it. And you just have to let go of that, because, you know, like, it just, things exist as they want to, and you have to be able to adapt. And we all know that, like, even at Prix de Lausanne, like, I slipped in the first diagonal of my variation. I was like, gotta keep going, but it's on the internet now forever. You can go watch it if you everyone, if you want to go see it. But you know, things like that, it's like, just stop holding yourself to certain extremes, that it's like you'll be so much happier if you just exist. And it goes back to being your identity, not being a technically perfect whatever you want to be, but just existing as a person and giving yourself space. Because, you know, whether you're ultra endurance athlete or whatever you are, like, you're still a person at the end of the day. Give yourself a break, you know?
Absolutely. And, you know, it's interesting that you use, you know, give yourself a break, be kind to yourself, be mindful. I want to tie that into something else that's been a very delicate topic, but one that I think has opened up an amazing wealth of information. And that is something, again, umbrella category here. I feel like I'm doing this every episode. You know, self-image, body image, the expectations, and the at times insane ideals of what we have to look like to be successful. You know, this is something, again, that you've lived through as a young ballet student and as an artist and someone who puts themselves out there on stage. We always, you know, again, going back to, we want to put the best version of ourselves out there.
Yeah.
At times, people have struggled and have not fallen into healthy habits of doing that in an effective way. And again, all of these major changes and all of these things happen at such a tender time in our developmental years, you know? So I want to talk about, you know, and I'll use myself as the example. I have a connective tissue disorder called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I didn't learn about this until I joined with Houston Ballet, and I was like 17 and got to work with their whole physio and everything team. But basically, it means that all of the joints of my body are kind of disconnected and floating. Like, your hip is like a ball and socket, and it's kind of moves like this. And the connective tissue that holds me together is faulty, so they kind of just hang there, which for ballet is great. It makes me flexible, but it doesn't,
I was thinking, okay, turnout.
no, it's great. It helped made me flexible, but it was kind of like a double-edged sword because, my lines, the way you should have, hips, knees, toes, everything lined up, and, the alignment didn't work because not only did I have that going on, but my actual joints in my knees, for example, it wasn't until I did an x-ray and learned that they were twisted on a 45-degree angle. And my entire life I had people yelling at me, your knees aren't in the right place, they're not straight, they're not this, they're not that. And I just kept beating myself up over it, saying, well, I'm never going to have the right lines for ballet. I guess I'm not going to be able to do it at this high level because I don't have the right legs for ballet. Now, fast forward, I've learned, I do have the right lines for ballet. It just looks different on my body because that's the way I'm built. And yeah, it has a nice little, well, I've learned to like it. It has a weird kind of dippy, swervy, bow-legged line, but it works for me. And it worked at Birmingham Royal Ballet and Houston Ballet. So somebody liked it. And so I want to put that in your life as well. And to everyone out there, there is so much talk about, identifying weaknesses. And I like to be able to cancel out the word weakness because I think it should be, to get to where we are and to be doing what we're doing, you got to be really strong.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting conversation, especially around classical ballet, because there's certain standards and aesthetics that are just what they are. There's standards. But yeah, it's so interesting. And I think it's a great conversation and ways that I think the ballet world is slowly adapting to, even though it's, I think, a bit behind, if I'm being honest, but really just appreciating. And I think, honestly, we were there a while ago, and then it went through this time in the last century
where it got really narrow-minded.
It got really narrow-minded. Yeah, what dance and classical dance is. And, what it comes back to when we study the greats, it's storytelling. And yes, there's technique and there's and it's also amazing things that we can do with our bodies, and we look at these old videos and we're like, oh my god, this person can move so fast. And but it has to do with telling a story through music, and that's really what it comes down to. And it's not about the shape of your knee or your foot all the time. Yes, of course, that is something that we strive for as individual artists and athletes, but that's not the greater picture, and that's not the audience's expectation always, right? They come to see Swan Lake. They don't come to see, all of
how to do Swan Lake. They just come to see it.
Yes. Exactly. So, I mean, I love that you brought that up. I personally remember a moment at San Francisco Ballet when our director said to me, and we had such a great relationship, and I was at a weird time that I couldn't hear it in the right way, just being a teenager and being like, oh, I just suck, but it wasn't that. He came up to me and he was like, you're not a bar dancer. You don't, you're just not. But he gave me roles when it came to perform. He gave me featured roles because that's where I do best, honestly, is when I am given a little bit of flexibility and can tell a story. And I've always been very emotive and inspired just to move around, but I don't look great just standing at the bar. I've worked really hard for a bit more turnout and a bit more shape and this and that, but I don't naturally I have flexibility. That's the one thing that I can claim to have, but the actual technique aspect, that's been a struggle for me my entire life, and turnout and things like that. So none of it is really that important when it comes to back to what the end goal is of putting things on stage and telling full length stories. You're trying to transport people into this world and take them on a journey with you, not through yes, of course, it's beautiful, your grand jeté, but at the end of the day, people remember the connection between the dancers. They remember those swells in the music when it was told with some port de bras. It wasn't about how high your leg was,
Absolutely.
So I just try to bring myself back to that when I get wrapped up in oh my god, my supporting leg,
Yeah, no, and I love how you've transformed this into more of it's an art, not necessarily an aesthetic, because there
Right.
is so many stigmas and stereotypes about ballerinas have to look like this, dancers have to move like that, but at the end of the day, I think that people forget, or I think that people don't realize how much of what we do is athletic. We are athletes, and
Hmm.
again, the times are changing. You've said it as well, hopefully it will continue to change, but I think that people need to realize that this idea of a ballerina being this, little stick figure, like, yeah, we're all little stick figures when we're like 12 and 13, but when we grow
Right.
up, we're not. And that's
Yeah.
okay. Like it's we're
But also there are
humans.
some body types. There are some
There are
body types
some.
that mean
Yeah.
that. And honestly, amazing. I wish
Everybody's unique.
I,
Everyone's
yeah,
different.
everyone has. And so, like if
Oh, we're cut out for a second. Connection. Hopefully she's coming back. Juliet. Uh-oh. Let's see. Oh no, where did she go? Let's see. Oh, okay, she left. I think she had a connective issue. But anyway, we were basically just talking about how everyone's body type is different and it's okay to have a different body type, And owning who you are and being authentic is 100% the most important thing that you can be, regardless of where you're at in your career, regardless of where you're at in your life. If you're a dancer or not, I think it's important to realize that it's okay to accept where you are, and it's also okay to accept that, yeah, I'd like to be somewhere else at some point. And again, it's a journey to get there. So I love what Juliet was saying as well. I think it was incredible. Let's see where Juliet is. I'm going to try and add her back in here, you guys. Juliet, where are you? I'm not sure how to do this. I'm not very good at technical things here. Well, anyways, I want to address, because some of you guys have sent in some absolutely amazing questions, which I think is unbelievable. Some of these questions being things like, what is something that I've experienced? What is something that you have experienced? Meaning to Juliet, which unfortunately it looks like we lost her with connection. But things that I've experienced in my career that have had to really make me dive deep down and reevaluate, can I do this? Do I want to do this? How am I going to keep doing this in those moments where it feels tough, it feels like I want to give up and quit ballet altogether? And I'll tell you what, honestly, I have had those moments where I've wanted to give up, I've wanted to quit, and, I just got a message from Juliet. Her phone overheated. Oh no, she's coming back on, I think on her mom's phone. Oh goodness. Let's see. There she is. Okay. I'll add her in. Sorry guys, coming back now. It's always exciting to have things come up,
I'm
She's
so
back.
sorry.
No, it's okay. I just saw the message from your mother. She said your phone overheated or something.
All of a sudden my phone went black and I was like, what just happened? That never happened
Oh no,
before.
no, it's okay.
Anyway.
Well, I started off the next question because so many people were writing in, and I thought it was absolutely fabulous. What is a time in our career where we've experienced where we're done, we don't want to do this, it's over, it's too hard, and how do we get out of that? Because I think the burnout factor, if we'll call it, is real. Like, we all come to a point where it's just like, it's hard work, and you start to feel the effects of that constant grind, And
Right.
what I started out by saying is, I actually didn't get to say it, but what I was meaning to say is, many people don't know this, many people don't realize this, but before I joined Birmingham Royal Ballet, I was not dancing for an entire season. Like, after I left Houston Ballet, I went home and I had time to think and reflect, and unfortunately, I was in a situation where my health was affected, and my departure from Houston Ballet led to me unfortunately being hospitalized for a bit of time. And I had to go home and just really work on myself and figure out if I'm going to dance was I going to let that experience tear me down? What was I going to do? And so, yeah, I went an entire year with no phone, no social media. If someone wanted to get a hold of me, they would have to figure out how to get a hold of my parents, if they even knew who they were, because not many people do. But it was a real time where I was dealing with mental highs and lows, physical highs and lows, and I didn't know if I was going to be dancing again. And the person, and I will say one person who got me through that was, and still is, the most unbelievably influential person in my life, my coach Ariel Serrano, this amazing Cuban guy. And he told me something, the most incredible thing ever was, we didn't come this far to come this far. And it wasn't in the sense of in my ballet career, it was in life. He was saying, if you want to quit tomorrow and become a brain surgeon, heart surgeon, is because I actually would. But he told me, like, if you want to quit and do something totally different with your life, you're going to do it. But you're not going to do it halfway. You're not going to do it with half the motivation and half the dedication, because I was an all in, all or nothing kind of person. Whatever I was doing, I went for it. And I lost that. I lost that sense of self and that sense of, yeah, I'm going to do this. And he helped me get that back in my ballet, and helped me get that back for that love for this art form. And so I wanted to, I was going to ask to you, of course, where did you draw in times of those lows? Where did you draw your strength and inspiration and optimism from?
Totally. I mean, I have to say, especially in San Francisco, it was my parents. I would call home pretty much daily. I would talk to my parents, and it was a constant battle with myself. And I thought at the time it was with other people, and then it took a little bit of maturity to realize I'm the issue, and not in a bad way, but we can all acknowledge that when life seems really tough, a lot of the times it's just like, for me, it was just trying to put myself at unrealistic, meet unrealistic expectations. And then I thought, if I didn't meet these expectations, I would disappoint people. But really no one else was thinking that. It was all made up inside my head. I would be, I would take 4 technique classes a day. No one needs that. I would show up the first one at the building. I just I would just do insane things. I would push myself to limits where I would break. And that's ultimately what ended up happening when I left. Of course, I wanted to keep exploring musical theater and film and more acting, because that is a huge part of who I am as an artist. But Absolutely. At the same time, I was really unhealthy when I came back to San Francisco for that month. It just was a quick decline. I can't really say I haven't put too much thought to it, because it's something that I was like, cool, that happened, and moving on. And that's what we do a lot, And I have learned a lot since then through different experiences. But that time in my life, what really got me through was reaching out to people that I trusted and that I thought knew me best. And for me, it was my parents. And for some people, it might be their teachers or certain mentors or friends, But I really do think that no one can go there, wherever we're going, can get there alone. And we all need a support system. And the saying, it takes a village, is the truest thing I've ever heard, because I've never done anything in my life without 10 people behind me to back me up, and that I can really, attribute my personal success and wins to. It didn't happen because of me. Sure, maybe I showed up for that moment, but everyone else was there for every crucial moment that I needed that bit of guidance or inspiration from.
100%.
Yeah, so support systems.
I know, I love that. I think it's so true. Having, whether it's a village, because again, I think having so many people, having so many hands mold me into the dancer and the person I am today has been a privilege. But even if it's just one person, I think it's incredible to be able to tap into the wisdom, into the knowledge of others, And I want to point out, for your example, I've had the privilege of meeting your lovely mom as well, and you have a very unique situation where you come from a family background of performing and artists and dancers. I mean, how is that, I think it's incredible, but for me, when I first started ballet, I mean, the only thing my mom knew was Mikhail Baryshnikov because she saw him on Sex and the City. Was that what it was, So, like,
That's all
genuinely,
you need to know, honestly.
I mean, he's great on it, obviously, right? But aside from that, it's been interesting because my journey with my parents supporting me with this, started out from them knowing nothing to my mom probably being able to, she's seen Nutcracker so many times, she could probably do the entire thing by herself, a one-woman show, But how is
and
that?
I'm sure there are so many parents that can relate to that.
Oh, I'm sure. But how has having, because this is a unique perspective I haven't had on here yet, how has having a parent or a family member within your industry been an asset or potentially even something that's made it difficult for you as you've moved through your career?
Yeah. I don't think it's really made it difficult for me in the sense that it's been difficult. But again, it comes back to how I was receiving things at certain times when I was 10 years old and I was fighting back with my mom about a correction rather than just being like, okay, I hear that and I would hear it differently from another person. And it's just how we are. We listen in a different way for every single person in our life. And we're like that too when we speak. We speak to different people. We address different people differently. I noticed that when I look through my messages, I might be sending like a similar message. If I like have a request, I might send a similar message to 10 people, but I'm writing it in a different way to those 10 people. Yeah. So, it's the same way with our listening. And that was it growing up. That was the hardest thing, was like trying to get to that mental maturity where I could, at 11 years old, click off, this isn't mom anymore. This is, this is a teacher, and this is coaching time. This isn't, arguing in my bedroom.
Yeah, no, that's really unique.
Yeah, so it's been interesting, and it's still something that I'm learning how to navigate, and we work together a lot. We co-teach now, we co-choreograph. My mom still choreographs on me, and it's been like that through the years, and I feel extremely fortunate to have that, and that's such a cool part of our relationship too, like that we can kind of like flow between this teacher student co-creators, mom and daughter type of thing. But it's something that has been a huge point of growth in my life, is just like trying to be as aware as I can, how I'm responding, how I'm listening. Great exercise. And it's been, that was the most difficult when I was like 10, 11, just like storming out of the studio. Or my mom actually would kick me out sometimes. She would actually kick me out of rehearsal, be like, that's it, that's all we have time for today. You're done.
That's funny. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, it's important to realize too, like parents as well, because on this journey to becoming an artist, ballet dancer, whoever, your parents are involved more than we realize. They're obviously figures of support, but they're people who are, in some cases, logistically making this happen for us and helping us get to those places. And I think that, I would be the first one to admit I have had some heated moments at home. Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, but we all do. Love my parents. They're like in the other room now, and they're probably not thrilled I came home from England and, potentially brought all this crazy stuff home, whatever. Right. I come in with like a ring light and tripod, and they're like, our house is not turning into your, ballet YouTube studio here. Birmingham Royal Ballet is in England. This is Florida. But no, they've been fabulous about it. Just you wait. Yeah, like newsflash, the ballet comes with this. Right. But no, I think it's important to realize too that, it's important to be thankful to the people who help you in this journey. I think that sometimes we lose sight of the process and the journey, and like you've mentioned earlier, the village of people. And so I don't want to run out of time, and there's so much I want to talk to you about. Like, I feel like we need to be on here for a day. But there's a question that I've been asking everyone on this series so far, And I think it's provoked some of the most amazing thoughts and wisdom.
Ooh,
And
here comes the pressure.
here comes the pressure. I know, the anticipation for me, right? Like, who am I going to get this time? And basically that is, obviously there's a lot of, we touched on this previously, but there's a lot of stereotypes and stigmas and subjects within not only our world, our art world, but the world in general. And what is one thing that when we all return to the studios, the stage, our normal routines, that you would love to see, what is one thing that you'd love to see change within our industry, for the better? Or at least have maybe more light shined on a sensitive topic that we think needs some more tenderness?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, the first thing that comes to mind, I'd love to hear what you think, but the first thing that comes to mind for me is the amount of connection that we've had in the past few weeks. All of a sudden, this boom of professional to student connection that I don't think we get as much of. Sometimes at summer intensives, you get the opportunity to hear a talk from a professional dancer that you look up to, or they teach your class, but it might be one, and you look back to that like years later, like that was the one I got. And now you have all these amazing dancers that are just every single day popping up on live and answering questions and teaching class. It's so cool. So, and I think it's really vital to development of, the next generation per se, is just, that is some of the moments that I think back to that were so important and vital to me. Were dancers that were in it and were doing it, and they were the most real. And we love our teachers, and they're the best, and they love us, and they care about us, and they give us their all. But sometimes it just takes like one point of view or a bit of encouragement from someone who's in it and who you just like idolize, and who just takes a moment. It means so much. Someone just to take a moment out of their day and be like, like just a bit of encouragement. I see where you're at, and I've been there too. And like, something like that, it means a lot. And so I've been seeing a lot of that support in the community, and I just think it's really important to keep that going. I hope that's something that some dancers will make time to continue doing.
Absolutely.
When everything, gets back to normal, whatever that is.
For sure.
I found that really inspiring. And also the conversations that I've been able to have with some dancers, younger, that's what I love about Instagram, is like the accessibility of just sending DMs to people all around the world. And you might be 12, you might be 15, but it all is just so important, that connection during those very tender years, as you said. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I hope that continues.
No, I mean, it's so interesting. I love that perspective. I actually haven't had an answer like that. So I'm also like, wow, this is great. I love it. But it's so true, and it's interesting because, like you said, being able to connect, being able to be just aware and involved, in some small capacity, regardless if you're student, regardless if you've been in a company for 20 seasons, it's it's very humbling, and it's been such a privilege to be able to share that wealth of knowledge, share those experiences, because that's something that unfortunately in our art form we're not always able to speak or project those messages on stage, and at a time where we're not able to be on that stage, we're able to project that through here, which I think has been beautiful. And for me, the true catalyst of this whole conversation series was, I don't care if it's one person watching or 100 or 1,000,000. Oh my God, that would be overwhelming. I hope that it's something that's positive, and that's something that is, good, just genuine good for everyone out there, because we need a lot more of that right now. And to be able to have had so many incredible artists on here like yourself has just been absolutely, I mean, I'm speechless. I want to thank you for being part of this. And unfortunately, I don't want to say it, But we are basically out of time here. And Juliet, I want to thank you again. I absolutely love your words of wisdom. I hope that everyone who's been on here today has enjoyed it as well. And then again,
Thank you
if
so
you
much.
guys want to be able to share this conversation, it will be available on the allieetoile YouTube very, very soon. And if you guys want to find out more about Juliet, although I'm sure everyone knows all the amazing things she's done. Details all about her are on my website, allieetoile.com. And this has just been such a fun episode. Oh
It's been
my
so
goodness.
so good to reconnect with you, and I'm so happy. I mean, we've had, I think, a lot of people come through, a lot of unanswered questions, but even if this reaches one person and makes a difference, I'm so glad that we had this conversation, you know?
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad that you've been doing this. It's really, I'm seeing it make a positive impact in the community. So
well, thank
really
you
grateful
so
for
much.
you, Allie.
It means the world to me. I so appreciate it. And I appreciate the support from everyone watching today as well. I want to thank you guys. And I want to send a big, that virtual hug type thing. I hope that everyone at this time is continuing to stay safe and stay healthy and optimistic and, keep going. Just keep moving through it. We are going to come out in a very positive light, hopefully very soon. And thank you, Juliet, for contributing to that mindset.
Thank you so much.
I'm so excited that I had you on here today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks, you as well. Thank you, guys, and we'll see you next time on Conversations with allieetoile. Bye, Juliet.
Bye. See ya.
See you. Thank you guys again. See you very soon. And again, details are all on my profile. The link is in my bio, allieetoile.com, for details on who is going to be chatting with us next. Stay safe, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode.